So we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to the 2019 Kickoff. Good to have you here. And again, we are going to, if you want to participate, the best way to do this is through the chat, not through the voice thing, because it just gets too loud. I'm going to try not to take everybody's time too long, but would love feedback as we go. So what are we going to do here? First of all, our agenda is we're going to look at what have we learned as an organization. How do we need to change? What is the tactical breakdown in terms of what we are going to be endeavoring to do here this year going forward, and what are our next steps? And if you guys wouldn't mind, is the screen being cut off? Like, is the word agenda being cut off? Because the way that this is showing on my screen, it looks like it's not showing the whole screen, and I just want to see. Okay, good. Thank you, Lori, for letting me know. All righty. So what have we learned? And I'm breaking this down from 2016 to present just because I always think this is a good place to start. You know, there was a sense in which this sort of started more or less conceptually in 2014, 2015, but there was not a disciplined effort. It was more with some sporadic deals and trying to work through some compliance issues. We really officially kicked off in 2016. And for most of you guys who have heard the story, I really started as the first hybrid agent, you know, really pushing forward with this in a disciplined way. And most of my marketing was from my sphere and from radio. And then, you know, that year was great. My income leaped up. It was just a really, really strong experience. So in 2017, we decided to scale out. We did a very broad recruiting push. A lot of you guys will remember we were recruiting pure loan officers, pure realtors, hybrids, everything. And we got really invested in social media, primarily because what we were initially seeing was that we could get people to click into our search environment and come back and back and back. And so we thought that even if that took a year or so, that was worth doing. So that's what we did for the balance of 2017. As we started to get into late 2017, though, we started to realize that the pure realtors, generally speaking, weren't as productive because they couldn't carry our value proposition. And by that time, we also started to look at our ROI on the social media, and it wasn't what we needed it to be, as you guys all know. Now, some of you may not know, middle of last year, what we did when we kind of transitioned out of some of our internal efforts from a marketing social media standpoint, we did a Zillow test. Zillow approached us to be a premier broker, and we did it at a small scale. I mean, it cost us almost $40,000, so it wasn't nothing, but with a very small local group to my office because I needed to supervise it. And let me just say, it was terrible. We got 2 deals out of it. The leads were, well, forgive me, but they were shit. But again, I think that we felt that we owed it to ourselves to say, hey, we've done so much of this ourselves. Is there something that they know that we don't, or can we invest another way so we can scale this out to people? It turns out it was not a good experience. And so when I look back at our lessons learned on the agent side, generally speaking, and again, no slap intended to the standalone realtors who are still with us, but generally speaking, the standalone realtors within our platform have not been a good loan referral source. They just haven't. And hybrids, compared to standalone realtors, generally speaking, have been more productive. The issue is, though, that hybrids are very hard to recruit. And I think that honestly, I don't know that I want to say I've been surprised by that. There's, I think, a lot of reasons, and we're not here today to sort of evaluate it. But the bottom line is it's very challenging to get people to play in the space. They're either steeped in the conventional wisdom on the lending side or on the real estate side. They just want nothing to do with the loans, or they've got a lot of fear, or even I think there's some laziness. They just don't want to have to work that hard. So, the fact is, on an agent side, those are the things we've learned. On the marketing side, what we've seen is that the hybrid agent proposition will help close a lead. In other words, if you're sitting with somebody that's going to be acting and you start to get into your value proposition, it will help you close them, I think, more so than almost anything else. But it won't attract leads. So one of the things that we've done over this period of time is we've fished with the hybrid agent bait on our hook, hoping that would attract business, and it really hasn't. Now, we could potentially argue that we haven't done enough of it, or we haven't messaged it quite right or whatever. But I think that the general reality is, we're going to get into it this morning, is that it just doesn't it's just not the way the consumer's minds work. The other thing is, again, you've kind of seen with the timeline, and probably as you've been with us, you see ROI for online lead gen is universally terrible. Okay, so pretty much anything we've done online, even where we've tried to give it time to season, even where we've tried to give it time to bake, if you will, it's still been really, really poor. And that's been really disappointing because, again, the early signs were that we were getting a fair amount of clicks and people in our search environments and so forth, but it's not translating into hardly anything. And ultimately, this is what I'm going to say is we can't outspend or even outsmart the competition. You guys, again, on the loan side of things, you think about Quicken Loans or Loan Depot. I mean, their cost of acquisition is insane because of the millions and millions of dollars they're spending on lead acquisition. And even on the real estate side, even though it's maybe not as intense from a spend perspective, there's so much going on. I mean, I just saw on Inman an article about a group called Knock. You guys may have heard of it, knock.com, where they're going, if somebody wants to sell their house and buy another house, they'll go buy that house for the person before they sell their house. And then that person can move into the new house and then they'll sell their house. Now, again, there's some complicated math to it, but the bottom line is, as you guys probably are aware, I mean, just the intense level of innovation out there is insane right now. And I'm not saying that we're going to give up on innovation, but in the short run, and I know that we all have short run concerns in terms of, how are we going to make it for this year? We really cannot outspend or even outsmart them. So what is it that we're going to do? How do we need to change? Well, I think that, as I've reflected on this, and I especially reflect on some conversations I've had with some industry folks, is that real estate and loan campaigns are not totally dissimilar to taking land in war, okay? And in war, you have air campaigns, if you will, and in our case, that would be social media, digital campaigns, et cetera. But then you have boots on the ground land campaigns. And sort of the point is within real estate, if you're going to take ground, you cannot win just in the air. You've got to have boots on the ground. And ultimately what that means for a lot of us is we got to get out there and we got to start knocking doors. And we got to start shaking hands. Okay. And if you look at our history and even my history, just personally, because a lot of my success has been within my own sphere, I've been able to kind of win with the air campaigns. But if I want to grow, and I need to grow because, my sphere, is ultimately limited and their activity level is limited. I have to grow. I've got to do ground campaigns. But of course, and so basically what I'm saying is what we've got to pivot to, where we got to change is we've got to pivot to the street hustle. Okay. And whenever I think of the word hustle, I think of Pete Rose, and I know he's kind of been tainted by his gambling scandal and so forth. But I love Pete Rose because of some of the stories. And, I was a little bit young to remember a lot of this, but, he was legendary for, if he got a walk, right? Usually if you get a walk, you kind of saunter to first base. I mean, the guy would sprint to first base, even if he had a walk. He was sort of famous for his headlong dives into the base as he was base running. The bottom line is he just out hustled everybody. I think ultimately, if we can't outspend people and we really can't outsmart them at the level of, raising, again, $500 million worth of venture capital to create a knock.com situation, we've got to out hustle people. Now, ultimately, to be very honest, and I'm saying this because as I think through this is what I think, which is I don't want to hustle like that, okay? If I have to leave my desk, if I've got to leave my comfort zone, I'm not super interested in this. But I'm not going to do a huge Tony Robbins thing here for everybody, but I want to just explore this for a second because as we kind of pivot into some of the actual brass tactics that I'm going to lay out, I think some of the psychology is important. First things first is, listen, if you focus on why you don't want to do some of this stuff, it will paralyze you. You won't do it. But if you can focus on all the reasons why, or the things that you want, the results that you want, and those are big enough to push you beyond your comfort zone, you'll do it. And so what we've talked about before, and I want to just say it again, is if you don't have a why, if you don't have a purpose or a goal that's big enough to move you out of your desk, the goal isn't big enough. Now, for a lot of us, though, I think we're willing to hustle, but we don't know how, and we don't necessarily want to hustle the same way that maybe we perceive other people hustle. And so what I also want to ask is not just what's your why or what's your purpose, but how can we do this with a little bit of a twist or something a little bit interesting so that we can prevail? And so, again, I can't answer the first set of questions for you because each one of you is unique in terms of what's your why, but I am going to try to offer some help in terms of how we can do this a little bit differently as we go out and try to hustle. Because my sense is that for most people on the call, you're willing to hustle if you knew how to do it or had some ideas and felt that it was special. So let's get into this. Let's get into a tactical breakdown of how we're going to kind of tackle what's in front of us right now. And right now, I'm going to kind of think in terms of two domains, okay? All of us here have our existing sphere of influence, okay? Previous clients, people you know, LinkedIn, et cetera, and you have to always have your eye on the ball of how you're working and being in front of that sphere, okay? The other domain is how do you create new opportunities, introduce yourself to new people, grow your contact list and your prospects, okay? So at least from my standpoint, strategically, if we're going to just get as super simple as possible, your strategy for 2019, my strategy, our strategy for 2019 needs to kind of see this in these two domains. How am I going to attack my existing sphere? And how am I going to get new contacts? Now let's start then, and let me offer this. My goal is to offer at least once a month what I'm going to do to attack my sphere and to create new contacts and prospects. In other words, I'm going to be trying to lead by example, and I'm going to talk about this later. I'm going to share the results. And at some level, if we find something that we feel is really working well, we can discover ways to try to scale it out and assist you. However, what I want to make clear here is we can't do all the work for you. We can't, there may be some things we can do to aid you, but ultimately what I'm going to try to be doing is be a thought partner and a leader and an example to you as to how I'm doing this. And you're going to get that about once a month from me. Today's going to be the first example of that. Okay. So first things, how am I going to attack my existing sphere of influence? Now, I've put this out on the Facebook Lion's Den, but I'm going to go over it just briefly again. And that is that there's this program called eProperty Watch. Now, I believe that you can get this in any of the markets that we service. Okay, now I happen to be able to get this through the CRMLS. They offer kind of a free version, although I did upgrade it. And all you do is enter in either your past client or a prospect and their property address or an email address. And once every 2 to 4 weeks, that client gets an email from you that's specific to their property that gives them an update on all kinds of things, not just activity in the area, but a CMA, estimated equity, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really cool thing. And let me just say that in the first couple weeks that I've sent this out, I've already had 3 loan inquiries and I've got 1 purchase pre-approval coming just because I'm doing this. And the nice thing is, guys, listen, I think a lot of us struggle with for example, doing a newsletter every month because some of the canned content is sort of stale and it's industry specific. And some people are interested, but a lot of times they're not, but almost everybody's always interested in what's going on with their property. The trouble is we don't always have time as agents to go look at everybody's property value all the time. This system does it for you. So it's specific to them. And once you set it up, it just runs. And I'm already getting good feedback and I'm getting some stuff. Greg, I believe that there is a free version of this. It may limit the amount of contacts that you can put in there, but it's a nominal cost. Okay. I think I upgraded to a version that was like $20 a month or something. Now, Sarah Purcell saying that she tested it and she felt that the values came out low. Okay. And again, you're going to need to, evaluate this based on your own clientele, your own database. And Greg says he's been using HomeBot, similar premise. Again, what I want you guys to know is whether you use eProperty Watch or not is sort of irrelevant, other than the fact that I feel like it has served me well. And it's either no cost to low cost as a way to continue to just be in front of your sphere, okay? Now, the other one that we talked about this a little bit in the Lion's Den is this slide broadcast, where you can upload phone numbers and then record a message, and then it goes out to directly to people's voicemail. Again, I've got at least one loan off of this. I've only done 2 of them so far. I haven't done huge campaigns with it, but it's easy and it works. And frankly, my clients feel like that I'm actually reaching out to them personally. I've had a lot of people text me, "Oh, Brett, thank you so much. Great to hear from you. I'm always thinking about ways to refer you." Again, and it's relatively cheap. So rather than feeling like you got to, call your whole client base, use a tool like this. It's easy, it's free, and it helps keep in front of your sphere. Okay. So those are 2, again, quick tools that I'm putting out here in this first month, and they're already working for me. Relatively low cost, working. Now, I think, though, the bigger question is, how are we going to create new contacts, right? I think that's, okay, and Greg said that if you want to do text broadcasting, that Sales Message is a good program that does text blasts. So I love that. Either one of those are good. Now, a lot of you guys are familiar with this concept from a marketing standpoint, the difference between pull and push. Pull is frankly where, you put some advertising out and then people roll to you, okay? Which is great. I mean, we'd all love to just have our phone ringing all day and take orders, if you will, and do business. But ultimately, I think we're in a situation, again, because of the competition, because of our budgets, so forth and so on, we're in a push mode. Ultimately, if you can create enough momentum for yourself, it can flip into a pull. But I think for everybody on this call that I know, we all kind of have to accept that we're not there yet. We've got to push. So I'm going to tell you what my push strategy is and how I'm going to attack this. And hopefully it'll inspire you a bit, and then we can have some conversation. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some very aggressive, again, boots on the ground campaign, door knocking, but I'm going to do it creatively and smartly by combining predictive analytics, okay, in terms of what doors should I be knocking on, with some creative messaging. Now, let me just say a couple things. I'm going to wade into the predictive analytics program I'm going to use. I'm not going to train on it. I'm just going to give you an introduction to it. And ultimately, if you don't use this one, it doesn't matter. There's other ways to do this. But let me just tell you that I am not going to go into a direct mail mode, okay? Because I don't, now, number one, I think it can take too long to mail to a farm to convert. But honestly, the response rates are so low that you've got to be able to mail 5,000, 10,000 pieces at a time to get a response rate, not just a conversion rate, but a response rate that's decent. But I think with door knocking, you can do better from a response rate standpoint. And that's what we need, is a response, right? But I don't want to do brute force, which means I'm going to pick a neighborhood and just knock through every door, because that, to me, isn't very smart. So even though I'm going to be, have to be Charlie Hustle here, and I've got to out hustle my competition, it doesn't mean I have to do it dumb. So what I'm going to be doing from a predictive analytics standpoint is using a program called Remine. Now, for everyone who is within the CRMLS, I believe that you can access a free version of this. Not all of the MLSs out there have it, although I think they're really catching fire because it's so powerful. In fact, if your MLS doesn't have it, I would be in touch with your board and request that they get it. Here's what I want you guys to take away from this. I'm going to give you a little demo of this, mostly to inspire. For those of you who are in the CRMLS who could use it, hopefully you'll get on board and want to use it yourself. But what I want to say is, even if you don't have this program or access to it, good title reps will often have predictive analytics according to farms that you can use the same way. Good. So I see Larry's been using this who to door knock. So good, Larry. As I unpack this, maybe you can give it some feedback. Now I'm going to attempt here to pull up my Remine account just so everybody can see this. So bear with me. Again, I'm not going to do a big training, But you can search by an area, and I live in Laguna Hills, and what you can see here is it pulls up like a Google map, and each one of these dots represents a home, okay? And then what you can do is you can apply different filters to all the dots. You can say, hey, I want to know, for example, who has a mortgage rate over 6%, and you can apply it, okay? And you can see that the ones that are starred are where you can see which houses have mortgage rates over 6%. Or you can, let's say we're going to take that off. Let's say that we want to see, again, forgive me here, who has been in their house 5 to 10 years, because people typically move every 5 to 10 years. Who has a mortgage that maybe they haven't financed in at least, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, because if they just refied, they probably aren't looking to move. And I want to look for people who have, you know, at least $250,000 in equity, but maybe not too much. And as I'm applying these filters, you can see where the homes are starred. Now, what you can then do with this program is you can save those particular stars. You can actually drill down into them, and you can get some information. So this one will tell you who the owners are. And if I drill down into it, it gives me all kinds of stuff. In fact, I can create a CMA. I mean, it tells you what their financing is. Now, again, I went ahead and bought a better version of this, but it gives you what they think might be some decent contact information. And what's interesting is it will also give you their buy score. Again, I'm not doing a training here, but what that means is on a property by property basis, they have analytics to tell you what they think who's a likely seller is, but they also on an individual basis will tell you which of those owners are likely to be buyers as well. And so as you go through your tracked list, if you will, you can kind of go out, you can go sift through your owners. And in this case, Richard, Dunklin, and Kim Lee, there's not a lot of information available there, so I might not add them to a particular list. But so here is Ashish Kandawal. His buy score is low. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but what I'm trying to tell you is as you scroll through these, you can get a sense for who would be really, you know, a hot property to reach out to. So here's a good one. They meet those criteria, and the buy score is medium. So, you know, the fact is that's probably not a bad door for me to knock. Now, Larry said that their info as to who they say will be ready to sell in the next 6 months is very arbitrary. And, you know, again, let me just put it this way. Again, not to make this a training session on this. If you look at their filters here, they actually do have what they call a sell score. So they actually have their own internal algorithm as to who they think is likely to sell. So you can filter just by that. In the training I've done with them, they've basically said, don't just use the sell score. Think about who has equity, who's been in the home of 5 to 7 years. Think of who hasn't refinanced super recently, et cetera, and then go from there. And then what I'm doing, Larry, is I'm going a step further, and I'm going through each and every contact to see who has a corresponding high buyer score. The bottom line is, however you filter this, whether you're filtering for non-occupant, because you can even filter by occupancy. I mean, you can knock on the door of renters and see if they're in the market to buy. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do with this. The bottom line is whether you use this program or you sit with your title rep and ask them to give you some data. If we're going to do door knocking, let's do it smart, okay? Because I don't know about you, I'm not necessarily up to knocking all 340 doors in my neighborhood just to do it. That doesn't make good sense to me. Now, let's see. Let's go to the next step here, though. So once I've got my list of which doors I'm going to knock based on whatever criteria I put up, now here's the thing: I want some creative messaging. Okay. And so here's what I've come up with. And again, I'm about to test it. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. Offline, I can share more with you guys if you want. But again, this is more meant to kind of inspire and give you some thoughts. Stats show that when you door knock, up to 75% of the doors that you knock will not open. So I've designed a door hanger. Now, again, it's branded kind of to me, but it would be easy for anybody to use or switch if they want. It says, "Sorry, I missed you." And you notice it's a little icon of me. I've got a little Starbucks card here. And this pencil is actually going to be a sharpened golf pencil that I'm going to talk about in a minute that I attached to this. I'll show you how. And basically, again, I hate to read it to you, but you probably can't see it, so I'm going to read it. It says, "My name is Brett Bonecutter, and I'm a local hybrid agent, realtor, and mortgage banker. My research shows you might be in a position to sell or buy a home. If you will kindly fill this brief questionnaire out, I will leave a $5 Starbucks card as a thank you. All you have to do is fill this out and leave it on your porch. I will be back to pick it up before noon tomorrow," and there's a blank because I'm going to put the date. And then I've got 5 questions that they can fill out with the pencil. And it says, "Can you see yourself selling or buying a home this year? Yes or no? 2, do you already have a real estate professional you are committed to using? Yes or no? 3, do you already have a mortgage lender you prefer to use? Yes or no? 4, would you like to receive periodic neighborhood updates on real estate activity and mortgage rates? Yes or no? 5, would you like to hear more about how hybrid agents save money on selling, buying, and financing real estate? Best email, best phone." Okay. So I'm going to leave that piece behind. And again, you can order pre-sharpened pencils on Amazon, super cheap. And then I didn't even realize they have this, but there's these little glue dot dispensers, and I've already tested it. You just roll the little thing over like this icon and you stick the pencil to it. And my point of view here is that this is an interrupting message. It's not a typical door hanger. And what I'm looking for, especially for the people that I cannot connect with, is who's going to take me up on this. I realize most people are going to throw it out. Some people may be pissed, but it doesn't matter because I'm looking for the people who go, "Hey, this is kind of clever. I like Starbucks. I'll play along. Sure." Guess what? Those are the people that now I'm going to market the living hell out of. Okay. The other thing I'm doing that I'm going to attach to this is my resume. And I'm going to suggest to all of you, if you have not put together a resume that's specific to clients, that you're missing an opportunity. Because I think, again, one of the things that we want to message is I would like to interview for the position of being your realtor and mortgage banker. I want you to interview me. Here's my resume. All right. And so what I'm going to do on the flip side of the resume is basically put a little cover letter that reiterates some of the information on the door hanger, and it's going to go with the door hanger. And what I'm going to do is, well, let's get into this. And again, I'm watching the chat box here, folks. So if you have comments or thoughts, let me know. I want to get 5 listings a month. Now, that might sound like pie in the sky, but we all know, I mean, it's out there. I mean, it is there, right? The volume is there. It's just who's going to get it. I think, and maybe this is wishful thinking, we're going to find out, and I'm going to be sharing it with you, but I think based on predictive analytics and based on a good creative piece like this, that I can win at about 1%. Oops. Okay. So that means that I've got to knock on 500 doors a month. So what I'm going to do is for 20 days, I'm going to do this. And on day 1, I'm going to drop 50 of these things and I'm going to knock on doors. And then the next day, I'm going to go back through those houses and I'm going to see who leaves it on their porch. And I'm going to pick them up. So that's day 1 and day 2. Day 3, I'm going to do it again. That's 3 and 4. Days 5 and 6, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do that cycle, that 2-day cycle for 20 days until I hit 500 doors with the intent of trying to convert 1% of them. Now, the money is that the graphic cost to me and the printing are about $500. And I figure if 10% of the people take me up on the Starbucks thing, in other words, if 90% throw the thing away and only 10% ever do it, which I think is probably aggressive because I really do think most people are going to trash it, but I hope I'm surprised. I'd be delighted, right? That's only going to cost me $250. So this whole thing is going to cost me $750 and of course my time. But if I can pull it off, the gross commissions are, in my market, it should be well over 33,000. And that's if I don't get any double plays, if I don't get any buyers, if I don't get any loans. That's purely on listings and doing it at 1%. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's the zone I've got to be in. Okay. Like I don't know about you. I mean, this is not like, I'd love to be, I like have to be there. And so, at any rate, when you say to yourself, I don't really want to grind or I don't want to hustle. Listen, I don't either. But I think if I can remind myself that there's potentially a $33,000 payout per month at the end of the rainbow, if I keep doing this and I do it smart and I do it consistent, I can get down for that, especially if I partner with somebody maybe to help. So what are the next steps? Again, I'm going to encourage everybody on this call to make sure that you are thinking and planning in terms of your 2 domains. What are you going to do this month in the first quarter, whatever your time frame is, for your existing sphere? How are you going to consistently reach out to them with something of value? But again, probably more important for most of us because our spheres are limited, how are you going to get new contacts and prospects? And what I just laid out for you is, for me, I think one of the only and best paths I have to get this done, because the other paths to me are just too expensive, take too long, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the other thing I really want to encourage everybody to do, and I'm going to start to get, as I start to roll this out, I'm going to start executing it next week. I'm going to start updating you guys very frequently on what I'm doing and what my experience is. Not just because I want you to, inspire you I may fail and you guys may see that failure, but I think it'd be good for all of us to talk about what we're doing. I mean, again, I think about some of the feedback we put on the chat box. If you're using a text blast thing, share it with us. If you're using a CMA program, share it with us. Because we are so remote, if we don't use this system to communicate with each other, not only are we missing opportunities, but I think we can feel very alone. So I really want to encourage people, even if it's your plan, even if you want to just say, this is what I'm going to do with my sphere, this is what I'm going to do for new contacts, let's do that for each other. I think there's insane value there, okay? So Larry just asked, are you willing to share where we can get the door marketing piece? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post to the Facebook, to the Lion's Den, more information about all this. I just started working with this graphic artist, and I'm happy to give you her information as well. She's very reasonable. So she's just a freelance graphic designer, and then I'm having it printed locally, Larry, by me. Again, I'll share that as well, but I would say most of you guys probably have printers local to you, and it might save you some money if you work with them, but I'll share all my contacts. I'll give to you, okay? And you guys can have that piece. I'll tell Jen that, if you guys want to use that piece and then edit it to your own liking or to your own branding, I'll make sure that she knows that you guys have the go ahead to do it. All right, so that's for me. I just, again, guys, the bottom line for me is it's hustle time, right? And so I'm gonna bring up Pete Rose here. So what questions or thoughts does anybody have? And again, we're gonna do this via chat unless I can figure out how to unmute everybody. Okay, so Kim says she's got a printing company that will do this work for a discount. Kim, if you're not part of the Facebook Lions Den, I can't recall, make sure you friend me on Facebook. I'll put you in the Lions Den, and if you could share that information with us, I think everybody would appreciate it. I'm going to see. I'm going to unmute. I'm going to try to unmute everybody here. So if you'd like to chime in, you can. All right, so any feedback or thoughts on any of this? You should be able to talk now. Anybody?
I like it.
Who's this?
This is Kim.
Okay. Hey, Kim.
Hi.
Yeah.
I like it. I like all the options to go through, and I think that they do pay off. It's a numbers thing. I mean, I have a lot of them, and I just don't know where to put them yet. You know what I mean? I have a lot of old referrals, with a lot of information on them, but I just don't know where to put them. You know what I mean? So I have to choose one of these.
Okay, very good. Any other thoughts from anybody on what I'm laying out here? Any other suggestions as to directions that we should be pushing?
Hey, Brett, this is Sarah. I have a question.
Hey, Sarah.
Hey, between Remind and RPR, it sounds like you prefer Remind between the two. I mean, I've been spending for the last couple of weeks going into their training sessions, but I want to make sure I'm picking the right program for me and what we're trying to do.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. For creating a CMA, I generally do prefer RPR. But I don't know that does RPR have, I don't think RPR has these predictive analytics though.
Oh, they do. I was on their training and we went to the same thing. They have walking farms. They've got neighborhoods. It's very much the same, but I like the look of Remind better.
Okay, well but that's good to know because I think RPR is generally more universally available to people. So I'm glad you did that, and I'm gonna look into it. So good, thank you for letting us know.
But just to let you know too that within there's a toolbox that has all these different training modules that you can teach yourself different ways of marketing.
Okay, cool. And I guess my whole thing is it doesn't matter to me what program or data you use. The concept I think for most of us is when we think about the marketing push, the boots on the ground, the Charlie hustle that we all are going to have to get into to get the business that we want. It's how can we be smarter in the way we're doing it? And there's a lot of different ways to be smarter. I'm just giving you one, and it sounds like RPR gives you another way. So thank you for letting us know.
And there's a training session for LinkedIn that I just got yesterday, but it was at the same time as RPR, so I have to watch the broadcast separately. So I'm trying to get up to how to use the tools.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's, ultimately, and again, I'm sort of cutting my teeth on them as well. At the end of the day, though, and again, I don't want this to sound like pushback. Once you learn it, you got to get your ass out there and start getting in touch with people. Otherwise, the data is data. And I think that's, again, for a lot of us who especially have a loan background, who we have generally been more desk oriented. It's a change, but I mean, I think if for all of us on this call who need to make more money, we're going to have to push out from our desk, and we got to do it.
Does that one program that says it tells you about your home and what the value is and so forth, does that come with an alert? Say you have a target, value that you need to hit, and does it flag you want to, when you hit that target value? So I'm kind of thinking like MI, getting rid of MI on some borrowers, that have FHA loans.
I don't know that it has that, to be very honest.
You just have to keep looking. Okay.
Yeah. That's a great question. And it might be a feature that they could include. So it might be a good suggestion to their tech department with to say, if the value reaches X, could you notify me?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What other thoughts out there? Any other interesting things people are doing or would like to share?
I have something.
Please, go for it.
This is Maggie from Texas.
Hey, Maggie.
I'm in agreement with the model you showed us. My focus this year is trying to brand myself as a hybrid agent because that is not really fully known. So what I'm doing is, that program that you said for the CMLS, we don't have that here in Texas.
Right.
So I've been focusing on getting local establishments for me to do a video on them as a perfect balance, doing real estate and mortgage loans. And that video I could provide on my social sphere. And also I gain the sphere of influence of the business, and the business will bring the referrals to me moving forward.
Right. So I think that's really smart. And so what I'm going to ask, Maggie, is as you execute that, please share with us the things that you're creating, what the feedback is, if there's activity, because we need to learn from you. Because honestly, we haven't necessarily, none of us have taken that approach that I know of. Generally speaking, and I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just trying to be inquisitive. Like I said at the beginning of the presentation, what I feel like I have found is that fishing with the hybrid agent bait is not giving me enough bites. So I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just saying that if you're experimenting with a different way of doing it, we all need to know because we need to learn from you. So please share, aggressively share with us what you're doing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I've definitely seen some people who are all about, again, from a farming standpoint, partnering with local establishments to kind of co-market, co-brand, co-leverage their audiences so that you can connect that way. So I do think that's really smart. I'm just waiting to see how you do it and how it works for you.
Okay.
Thanks, Maggie. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? I'm curious. Are you guys willing to get out there and do this? Or is it like, oh, shit, Bone Cutter, you got to be kidding me? And you can be honest. I mean, I'm a big boy.
Well, none of us like to work.
Yeah, funny. But we all like.
As my bank account gets smaller and smaller, it's forcing me out of my house. So
I was going to say, but we all need and we like to see money in our bank account, right?
Yes, we do.
I'm curious about anyone else in Northern California. You guys grooving with this, or how's Northern California feeling about this?
Anthony up in Santa Cruz sounds like a great idea. I just wish I had somebody to go with.
I know, me too.
You got to recruit somebody.
Then I have to split everything.
Hey, Brett.
Yes.
This is Greg Wilcox.
Yeah, Greg.
I just realized my mute was on there. I like the ability to discern, filter out, and focus in on the folks that are likely have the highest likelihood of doing something. I'll tell you though, but before you showed me that technology, the idea of walking, and I've done walking before early in my career for mortgages, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't want anything to do with that unless I can get targeted the way you're describing here. That is attractive.
Well,
to not waste so much time.
Well, and my thought again is it's a double, and that's why I pulled this screen back up. To me, psychologically, I need to have three things in my mind. Okay. Number one is my goal big enough to motivate me to do this? Number two is my vehicle or my messaging creative enough to break through and be different and unique? So I'm not like, forgive me, every other asshole who's out there doing this. Okay. And so it's, is it smart or no? Do I have a goal? Is it smart? Is it creative? Those are the three things I need, or I won't get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to kind of demonstrate for you guys is smart predictive analytics. Well, again, I can't choose your goal for you, but everybody needs to know their goal, smart analytics, and a piece or something like what I pulled up here for yourself that you think might work well. Because as I've kind of concepted this particular piece out, I don't think nobody's done anything like this that I've talked to. And so I think it's worth a shot. All right. Anybody else?
Good idea.
You could market a golf course.
What's that?
I
So
said,
too bad you couldn't apply this to a golf course. You know what I mean? Like put those in the golf carts. You know what I mean? When they go out.
I know. Too funny. Was somebody else going to say something?
I just said good ideas, but we could use scooters here.
There you go. It's a good reason to get one.
Yep.
Well, listen, you're going to be getting a lot more Facebook updates from me as you watch me on my journey through this. And again, I will share my information. And I think that the more that we encourage each other with how we're doing and what's working, what isn't. I mean, guys, share your failures. It's okay. If you try something and it sucks, tell us. And I'm going to do the same. But let's have a little bit stronger community. and encourage each other as we get out there and do it. Because I don't know about you guys, but I cannot repeat what happened in 2018. I can't do it. I've got to get more business.
Agreed.
But when I look at what are my options, and believe me, I've been racking my brains. This is pretty much for me one of the strongest plays I think I have right now. All right. Well, again, I'm about to finish this up. Any other comments from anybody at this point? Questions? All right. Well, I'll be sharing this again with you guys. If you have other questions, let me know. And I'll look forward to next month, and I'll share with you what's going on. All right, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.